find out more. And you guys, you got to take your browser over to supertalktv.com and meet my new friend. Officer Skip is joining us in the studio. He is accompanied by Staff Sergeant Bryan McGee, who is a Mississippi highway patrolman, who is traveling the state to let Officer Skip give a great message. And if you haven't noticed yet, he's not fully human. So welcome, Bryan.
It's good to be here, ma'am.
It's good to be here. It's good to have Officer Skip in the studio. So he's not going to officially be talking to us today, but he is here on behalf of the Mississippi Highway Patrol and the good work that you guys are doing trying to bring awareness specifically to kids. All right, this was your brainchild.
Right.
So what inspired you to bring Officer Skip to life?
Well, when I got in public affairs in let's say 2 years ago, through the year with school and everything going on, you have so much going on with public affairs. We're out talking to schools, trying to do certain campaigns and those kind of things. And so in the summer times, it's kind of a downtime. You're like, well, civic groups, if you don't get to go to talk to civic groups, well, who do you talk to? So I went to one of our lieutenant colonels and I was like, I've got an idea. And I said, I'm going to go and start talking to daycares. And they were like, hey, that's a great idea. So I said, let's do it. So I started going out in the summertime last year and didn't take Skip with me. I just went myself. And the kids like that, but you can tell sometimes that the kids are kind of intimidated by an officer.
It's the hat.
Exactly. And it is intimidating.
Yeah.
And so I thought, after that summer went by and everything, it was a good summer. I thought, this next year came along and I thought, you know what, I'm going to add another wrinkle to this daycare campaign. And that's when Skip came along.
That's when Skip came along. Officer Skip. He's not Trooper Skip.
That's right. He's not Trooper. He's an officer. He's
an officer, and he is there to sort of bridge the gap and raise awareness with the specific age. I guess daycare is going to be
about 3 to 12.
3 to 12 years old. So when you finally got Officer Skip, and you went to where was your first daycare that you went to?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I've done quite a few daycares since then. So, of course. Let's just say this. When I went to my first daycare, I think I was as scared as the kids were, or scared as far as I just didn't know. I was like, man, what am I going to do? I'm not a puppeteer. I'm just a guy, I'm just a trooper with a message. And luckily, Skip made all the difference. The kids
they were
loved
worried
him.
about you.
They weren't worried. Exactly. They didn't pay any attention to Bryan McGee. They were watching Skip. And, just a few hand movements, Skip rubbing his tie, playing with his hat. They thought the world. And then after it's all over with, after you give them that 10 or 15-minute message, they want to give him hugs. So I'm constantly, we're trying to fix his hand. And I'm like, guys, let me hug you. And you got to hug every child in the room. And it's wonderful because he is such, like you said, he's that icebreaker or that bridge that bridges the gap between me as an officer and just the kids wanting to get to know us and wanting to hear from us.
From that age of 2 to 12, and again, this is also just building those relationships, letting the kids know that troopers and officers or men and women in uniform, they're approachable, they're there to help,
exactly.
They're not scary. But you have other messages that Officer Skip, you want to sort of give to that specific demographic. Right. What are those messages?
Well, the first one, the big one that I really hit it in the beginning is seatbelt safety. That's the number one thing when I go in there and talk about seatbelt safety. We talk about belt to bone, shoulder bone, belt to bone. And so we repeat that a bunch of times closer to the end of the conversation. And then by the time we're done, they're screaming belt to bone. And then, and after we do that, we talk about what happens if you get separated from your mom or dad. Because in the summer times, people have county fairs all over the place.
And they're going on family field trips,
exactly,
all
that kind of stuff. So everything, it works together. So you talk to the kids about what happens if they get separated from their parents. Stop and look. That's our big thing. Stop and look. And so you stop and because most kids want to run around trying to locate their parents, and that's okay if your parents
But if your parents are also running around looking for you,
exactly. So everybody's running around like proverbial chickens with their heads cut off. So if you stop and they start looking, they also are told to look for law enforcement or firemen or anybody in that field. And when they find them, I said, you come up to the officer and you tell them you're lost, and that officer will take you and we will find your parents. And they love that message.
You remind me, Bryan, of a childhood memory of going to the Mississippi State Fair. The troopers would have their little trailer there, and it has a tall thing with the blue light on top. And when I was younger, my parents would take me. We'd stop. It was like we'd come in, we'd stop right there, and Mom would be like, "Find this blue light if you get away from me," or whatever it may be. I never had to, but it's one of those things that you always kind of
my mom and daddy tell me a story. We used to go to the Mid-South Fair in Memphis all the time, every year. I got to see Conway Twitty, when I was a kid, and that's one of my fondest memories. But I got separated from my parents, and they were scared to death. What happened is I was pointing at the tilt-a-whirl, and they thought I was pointing at the Ferris wheel. And so I got away from them, went over there, went on it. Anyways, long story short, everything turned out fine. But, that message is something that's, if you get separated, it's definitely makes it more difficult if you're running around trying to find, and your parents are running around trying to find you. And it's just, if you just stop for a second and look for law enforcement, even look for, you're going to look for your parents first and then look for law enforcement second. So
what I love about this story, Bryan, is it not just the fact that you're trying to break the ice with kids from 2 to 12, but it's the fact too, it's not just about road safety. It's not just about, making sure speeding's not happening on the highways. Troopers are also very invested in just keeping families safe and in all of these different ways.
We're public servants. That's what we do. Yes, our main tasks when you're a trooper on the road is making sure highway safety, those kind of things. But when we get to this, we're also public service, and our job is to also try to keep everybody safe in every aspect that we're able to do. And so that's the way Skip and I, we work well together to go into these places and talk to these kids about that kind of stuff.
Another piece of your message, I interrupted you though, is to help kids help their parents not be distracted or their driver while they're driving. And this works well. We even saw it when the whole tobacco wars came down. It was, and encouraging children to educate up. You educated the kid, don't smoke, and the reasons why, and then you go home and you shouldn't shame your parents, but exactly. That's not good for you or whatever it may be. And you saw that parents sometimes or grandparents will listen to kids' advice. They recognize that they're watching. And so they can be helpful too in at least discouraging distracted driving. So how do you teach the kids that?
Well, of course, during the little program that we do, we ask them, hey, how many in here wear their seatbelts? So, most of the kids, majority of the kids will raise their hand. And then after that, we say, how many of your parents wear their seatbelts? And then, so after some raise their hand, some don't. And we say, all right, so then in the program, at the end, we try to give them a little trooper hat and a badge, and we deputize them to say, hey, if something happens and you're in the car and somebody's not buckled up, it's your duty to make sure you let them know that seatbelt is everybody's safety.
Ownership.
Right. And so now, because we tell them we can't be everywhere. Trooper Bryan and Officer Skip can't be at your house or at your school all the time. So we're there, we deputize them so that they can be there. And that gives them, like you said, ownership. And so they take that and then they tell or whoever, when they get in the car, hey, don't forget to buckle up. And it resonates.
Put the phone down.
Right, exactly. Put the phone down, that kind of stuff. And Lord, anyways, I don't want to tell off on my wife. So.
Oh no, I have a 10-year-old, and it's just we do well to try not to be distracted driving. And right now, it's kind of easy for me because I have a 3-year-old who wants to watch my phone while we're in the car. So that's a really easy way. But if you hear the text message or whatever, my 10-year-old will say, "Mom, you're not supposed to be doing that," or whatever. And
but see, that's good though. That's good. That's good.
It shames me.
It makes you think. It makes you think, and that's what we're wanting to do is make people think.
Yeah, and make people think and make you think about it and let you know that your kids are watching, and hopefully they will be our next generation drivers.
Exactly.
And so if they can be instilled in that now, then hopefully that'll translate into when they get behind the wheel. And I hope you're over at SuperTalk TV right now, and you can see Officer Skip along with Trooper Bryan and the good work that they are doing. I've got so many more questions too when it comes to just why or how you got led into being a trooper, Bryan. I know that's a calling for folks.
That's a good question.
How did you find your way there? Which we're coming up on a break.
Okay.
I knew it was coming. I was like, where is it coming? Okay, we got more with Officer Skip and Trooper Bryan. Don't get them confused. Coming up next. the Weather Channel. But over at SuperTalkTV.com, you will see I am not alone today. I have a new friend. His name is Officer Skip, and he's got his handler, if that's the right way to say it, or his friend, Staff Sergeant.
We'll say friend.
Bryan McGee, Trooper McGee, who takes him across Mississippi to daycare specifically, but I'm sure you're open to other small child, young child
Yes,
places to spread the message of just seatbelts. And
we do church events, anywhere where there's a small child that they will allow us to come in and talk to them. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's just bridging that gap, advocating for the troopers and men and women in uniform. They're kind and they're approachable, but then also you can, help with safety by wearing your seatbelt and not letting your driver be distracted whenever they're behind the wheel. Now, being a trooper is so much more. We're learning that there's so many more opportunities within the Mississippi Highway Patrol than just patrolling the highway, which is an honorable position. But what led you to become a trooper? Because I feel like it's a calling. It's not something someone wakes up one day and just decides, that's the route I'm going to go.
And believe it or not, there are lots that I know on the Highway Patrol. They grew up and they knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to be a trooper when they grew up, and that's great. But I wasn't one of those. I mean, I remember when I went through high school, had no idea, didn't think about it. Went to college at Ole Miss, and I was like, when I get out of college, I was working for Walmart at the time. And so I was like, I had a buddy of mine that had moved up north and was like, this is where you're going to make your money. This is it. This is retail is where it's at. This in the East, Walmart was moving up there. And so, man, you can become a manager, a district manager, and that's, you just see dollar signs. So when I graduated from Ole Miss, I moved up north and to Connecticut.
You went north?
Yes. It was a long way.
Yeah.
And so I go up there, and I'm thinking I'm going to make it big. I'm going to make stacks of cash, and it's going to be great. Well, while I was up there, 9/11 happened. And so I always wanted to join the military. After, during that period of time, I was like, I want to give back to my country. What can I do to give back to my country? Well, to make this story not so long, I tried to join the military 2 different times, but I had a foot of my intestines removed when I was a baby, seven weeks old. And in 1977, there's not a lot of documentation that's left over in 2001.
Yes, in 2002, 2001, yeah.
Right. So I'm like, anyways, my dad did 2 tours in Vietnam so that I wouldn't have to fight. And that was a story that he gave the recruiters. And they said, we appreciate that and we honor that. And so they took me back to my home in Connecticut and said, we appreciate you, but thank you and goodbye. So after that, I was like, I still wanted to do something. Well, things didn't turn out like I wanted them to in Connecticut. Prayed to God that he would open some doors for me, and he did. And I moved back home, got back home, and I'm leaving out a lot of details, but I get back home and I'm like, I want to give back to my country. I'll join my local police department. So I got on with the Corinth Police Department in Corinth, Mississippi, and got hired, got sworn in. And at the same time, I put in an application for the Highway Patrol because, the Mississippi Highway Patrol, that's your not knocking any agency, but, the Highway Patrol has that persona.
Within statewide.
Exactly, statewide. Yeah. It has that, that just the patch and the hat and everything that goes along with it. And so I got a call 30 days later, said that, hey, if you can be down here to take your polygraph and your physical fitness test and you make it, you'll be in. So that next day, I go down, pass everything, and I'm off to the races in 2003. And that's
how trooper school?
Tough, very tough. Class 56, we had it the roughest. You'll hear everybody say that their class was the roughest, but actually class 56 was. So I'm just letting you know and everybody on the radio know that's how that goes. It's an inside joke.
I'm sure everyone
other folks will get that. I'll catch some flack for that. So anyways.
But then, and now you're living your dream. And
yes,
now you're living sort of a purpose here in Mississippi, where your home is still in New Albany, up in North Mississippi.
My office is in New Albany. I still live in Corinth or Winnesoga community, which is on the state line of Tennessee. So the guys like to make fun and say I have to take my Tennessee decals off my car when I come down to Jackson. So anyways, but like you said, living a dream. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy talking to kids, and I enjoy just telling that good news and that good message about not only the Highway Patrol but other things that affect us on a daily basis. And Skip to bring him back into the conversation. He helps me out, and it also a lot of times it can calm you to make me, hey, I got a task, and me and Skip's got something to do, and you're not alone. Because a lot of times we have to go out there and talk to these folks, and we're alone. We're by ourselves. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that's our job. But when you got a little partner with you,
he's cute as Officer Skip.
Exactly. So it helps.
You can't. Yeah, that would definitely with kids. I mean, I don't know how much they actually heard of you. Although you said you had them chanting what bone,
belt to bone,
belt to bone.
Belt to bone.
Belt to bone.
Because the belt's up here, and you go to the bone.
And you go to the bone.
Your hip bone. Belt to bone.
I'm learning that.
Yeah.
Because they're so probably enamored with Officer Skip. What do you say though to young adults who may think that they had a calling for law enforcement, but right now with maybe just some of the clout that's around the profession, it's still something, if you feel drawn to it,
don't let that hinder you, and pursue that call. Pursue the call. That's the kicker, because there's a reason that you have that feeling that you need to go out and protect and serve. Serve first and then protect. All that together. No matter how you slice it up, protect and serve is the goal. And service, you just want to serve your community in a good way. And this is a way, after almost 20 years of being on the highway patrol, this is how I feel that God has called me to serve. And this is, talking to people about safety, because we have so much, negative going on around us all the time. And it's not even necessarily, law enforcement type stuff. Just everything seems to be a lot of times negative. And if you can just have that, be that one little light in somebody's life that day, if we affect one person in one day, that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. And two, y'all are out there doing so much good that's never even uncovered or unseen. One of the best things about Facebook is just the fact of catching those everyday moments. I saw in the Mississippi Highway Patrol's Facebook page, whoever runs that does a great job of humanizing the troopers and recognizing that you guys do feel like a family. One of the greatest stories I just saw was where one of the fallen troopers' daughter had started school, and a fellow trooper came to be there for the first day.
Yes,
and it's
ma'am.
like, they have family. They're protecting not only your family,
right,
but their families
as well. We're
humans.
We're all human. And that's a lot of times people forget about that part, that when we're officers, that we still are human. We have families that we love and we want to take care of as well.
But Officer Skip's not. No. But he's
part of my family at the house.
He's part of your family at the house.
And I actually have photos of us sitting around the kitchen table and stuff. And I had to stick him in there. I've got a friend up in Iowa, a trooper up there, and so we throw pictures back and forth of our families doing crazy stuff, and we try to see who can come up with the craziest photos. And Skip's been in a couple sitting at the dinner table.
I think Skip's going to end up being a celebrity in Mississippi.
Well,
I feel like you're on to something.
I think he's good. He can handle it.
He can totally handle. His smile has not left his face.
He's calm as a cucumber.
Under pressure, it feels like he's perfect to work in the daycare setting.
That's it.
If anybody listening to Good Things wants Officer Skip to come, how do they get in touch? And I know there's a process. You can't go to everyone all the time, but
we can fit them in. We'll figure out a way.
We'll figure out a way.
What they would want to do is, I have a Twitter account. It's at MHP Troop F. You can contact me on there. Our MHP Troop F Facebook page, the main Facebook page, or you can even just call headquarters if need be, and they will get you in touch with somebody that will get in touch with me, and then I will call you back.
And then you can work that into your schedule for your daycare or your church or wherever there are children. I just think everyone should meet Officer Skip. Do you think there will be more Officer Skips, or maybe not Officer Skip, but will Officer Skip get friends?
We don't. I don't know, and that's it's almost, who knows? Maybe so. Maybe this will catch fire across the nation, and that's a way to get into daycares and talk to kids and break that ice. So who knows? We don't know.
I feel like he needs a friend, almost like a dog, what do you call those dogs? A canine. Help me out, Rhino. I'm sinking. The canine division.
Canine.
Yeah, a canine. Just a canine.
Here, let me throw this in there right quick.
Yes, please.
It's our email address,
yes.
And what I need to do is give you that, because if they email us, that will be even faster. So the email address is going to be mhpprograms@dps.ms.gov. So it's mhpprograms@dps.ms.gov.
And I'll make sure that Rhino adds that to the tag on the YouTube video that he'll upload later for this. So if anyone wants to go back and watch it and find it there, they can do that. Trooper
Thank you, ma'am.
McGee, this
Thank
was
you.
so much fun.
I really
Officer
appreciate it.
Skip, you got to come see my girls at some point and get them to continue to shame me not to be a distracted driver. All right, you guys stick with us. It's Friday, so we've got Movies with Tanya coming up.